Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Impa Show. I'm your host, Impa Show, and today we have a very important guest, your favorite ASIM, Baugrems. Say hello, Baugrems.
Excuse me, it's actually admin
Oh,
Baugrems? No.
okay, admin Baugrems.
I'm just kidding, I don't care. Hello.
That's it?
Hey, you said say hello, I followed your instruction to the letter.
Okay, alright, good. Yeah, so, I feel like I have to address the elephant in the room. It's been 3 years. One episode every 3 years. Not bad, not bad. It's not my fault, and full disclosure, first of all, it's Baugram's fault, but full disclosure, we did record this once before, but I got too drunk in the middle of recording it, and so I will not be releasing that one. But today,
I
I'm
will.
gonna okay, maybe I'll clip in parts from it, really bad ones where I'm slurring my words, and I'll clip it in as like little extra bits. Is that a good idea?
Sure.
Sure.
Why not?
Okay. Um, yeah. Oh, and lots happened in 3 years. You realize that, right? 3 years, that's a lot of time. How many days is that?
I don't know, like 1,000?
Like a
And
thousand.
change?
Yeah, I lost all my sponsors. I lost my well, actually, I kept one, and I think you know which one. But Jules got banned, so there's only menthol and Virginia tobacco. No good. Not being sponsored by Juul anymore. That one was my choice. Monster felt like we weren't really hitting a large enough audience, which I don't know what that means. But BioGaia Gastrus stuck by us. And so I recommend you go and you purchase BioGaia Gastrus. That's BioGaia Gastrus. It's a probiotic for your gut microbiota. Fantastic stuff. You can buy it on Amazon or also somewhere else. I'm not really sure, but I buy it on Amazon. BioGaia Gastrus. Okay, anyways, we're gathered here today, the two of us, just the two of us, to talk about the DC Showdown, the event of the decade, the event of the what's longer than a decade, but not a century,
Century?
but not
Oh.
a century, the event of 2 decades.
It's like a
But
score?
but hold on, I'm talking. But before we talk about that, Baugrems, for anybody who's been living under a rock, doesn't know who are you? What are you? What do you do?
What do I do? Who am I? Oh man. Starting with the hard questions.
You know
Okay.
what? I'll
What?
make it easier for you. To start, how long have you been playing Combine? And then how long have you been an ASIM during that time? Admin, sorry.
Oh
Admin.
my god. Just anyways, yeah, so I can't really put a date on it, but I think I've been in here since probably year 5 or 6 as a player, just doing random things. And my most notable character, Baugrems, I was in Advance as one of the kind of higher up military types before they fell apart, and then merged into Trade Federation, did some stuff with them for a while, then became an ASIM. Probably, I think it was at the end of year 18 or beginning of year 18. Yeah, beginning of year 18, end of year 17. Joined ASIM, which just, if you know what that is, it's just basically moderator for the game, make sure people are following the rules, check up on multi accounts, check if people are needing help if they get bugged and stuck in something, just little things like that. Helping with the kind of development of the game, not really as a programmer or anything like that at first, but more as like, just ideas and bouncing ideas off developers and so forth. And
How many years were you in ASIM before you started working on events, doing programming stuff?
probably about a year only, really. I think I was there for about a year just doing all the rules stuff, catching up on support tickets, doing all that kind of boring work that sounds about as exciting as it is. And then moving on to like events and stuff, probably about a year in, I started doing, I think the first event was like the Meridians, like
Yeah.
you have the beaver people that got discovered in that
Mm-hmm.
the tie-in system or whatever, and then
That
people
was
went
like
searching in.
year 17?
I think it was year 18 or 19
Year
actually.
18. I think it would have to be year 18.
Well,
Somebody
whenever
knows.
it was, somebody
Maybe the
knows. I didn't
listener
keep
knows.
track.
Oh, by the way, listener, you can write in and tell us. You can write in and tell us what year it was.
And you'll win something.
Yeah, you'll win something. We know what it is. You don't know, but you'll win it.
Yeah, it's probably like a sense of pride and accomplishment or something.
Something maybe. Who knows? Anyways, continue.
So, first event was find the meridians. We just, we decided that things hadn't really been that exciting, and with the new release of Space Combat, we were thinking it'd be fun to do some kind of event with it, get people out there and testing the new system. So we decided, hey, we'll just throw some random bandit fields out there with a rare ship in it, and if people can go out there and get the most bandits, they will win one of the said ships. It was pretty simple, probably the simplest form of event you could possibly do. Just go out and blow stuff up. When we just kept track of everything manually, there was no programming done, there was no scripting of any kind. It was just all pure combat and us manually reading through all the logs, which admittedly was pretty awful. Sitting there trying to get every single combat log in the system, filter through, figure out who did the most damage, and yada yada yada. Because we knew even back then that if we just made it kill shots, players would go in there sniping kills, and that'd be no fun.
Right.
So it was all about damage and actual work towards it. And so that was the first one. And then after that event, we kind of started diving into more ideas like, hey, we can do quests as we have this whole system of Lisp that's like, it's a scripting language that is built into the game.
Let me interrupt you right there. How long did you guys work on the Meridian event? Like, how long did that process take?
I mean, like I said, it wasn't a very complicated event, so it didn't take a lot of work. I mean, most of the work was figuring out the ship, the stats, getting the artwork done for it,
right,
and then figuring out where we wanted to do it and what the rules were going to be. And that probably took us, I don't know, a month, maybe 2 months. It's been too long for me to know exactly, but it wasn't exactly tons of effort. It was more just wait for the art, talk every other day or so about what stats we want, decide on it, put it in. It was more work. It was more work for me. I think I did all the counting myself. Maybe a couple of the ASMs helped back then, but just we went through all the combat reports and just said, okay, who in this system did the most damage and won this one. So I think we did 4, if I remember right. And then the 5th one was to the person who discovered the Tynan system and unlocked that race of beaver people.
Right.
So we gave away 5 of those meridians. And I think we've only given away 2 since then in other events.
Yeah,
so those things are still pretty rare.
Part 2, right? That's when the other 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
The bandit meridian thing?
Yeah. Were they Corvette class, though? So we could actually attack them?
Right, I had to make like a kind of a fake meridian that was a Corvette so that people could attack it. And then I just made a new one so they could actually have the ship. So it wasn't the same ship. They didn't like capture it or anything and then keep it. It was more like I made some overpowered Corvette and then they blow it up and that's how you get the reward.
Okay. Yeah, by the way, can I turn my hunting tags in for something? Because I have like 10 I didn't turn in.
Yeah, you can trade them in for nostalgia.
Oh, okay.
People want them for credits, or save them. I don't care.
Is nostalgia like a new ship that's being released, or?
Yeah, the nostalgia class cruiser, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
but no, anyways.
No, you Science
go ahead. Science View 2 is a lot of fun because we broke a few tools like with the quest system, and we had a few panic moments trying to fix those and figure out what was wrong and
what did you break?
So apparently there are limits. So like if you have a list that's too long of like names or something like that, it'll reach a stack limit and say, hey, I can't process this full list anymore. And so when so many players are participating, you can't build a list of all their names that are on a team or are doing things. So you can't like I wanted to be able to send out messages with updates to the teams individually, like through DMs or something like that, like automatically. And just have this big list of names. And I built the list of names, and then I went to click send, and it said, error, this is way too big of a list. Just so we had to figure out how to like batch it, so like do it in smaller bits. And that was an interesting adventure. And we definitely have better ways to go about it now. Like moving on to Galfest, I guess. With Galfest, we started doing, you know how you got those notifications in Galfest where, hey, it's been 12 hours, you can go talk to so-and-so and do their game again. Instead of making it so it sends a DM where there's a giant list that we're tracking, we actually made it so when you do the one activity, it sets a timer on your own character. and then once that timer is set, it sends you an event.
Oh,
And
okay, yeah,
so
that's smart.
it's very low maintenance on our side to try to batch through everybody, when instead everyone just has their own little timer attached to them, and made things a lot smoother. And then for the rest of Galaxy Fest, there's a lot of our skills from the last events went into Galaxy Fest, like the whole buying stuff from vendors and they appear in a box in orbit that you can't get stolen from, and so you can't litter, restricting access via the shuttle so people can't bring a bunch of junk down, having the games be every 12 hours instead of just being able to constantly play and rack up your points and have it be the most active people win. I mean, there was still some bonus activity because you had to be on every 12 hours to do the games. And
right. Galfest ran pretty smooth too. Like it wasn't too, like it didn't take forever for everything to load. Well,
I don't know if that was sarcasm or not, but it definitely did not. So,
well, no, I mean when I was there, it wasn't too bad. Like, I mean, it's kind of what you would expect, but it wasn't too bad. I remember when like one of the swap meets, people were just like leaving stuff everywhere, and it got really bad.
yeah,
But
that's
wasn't there an
part of what we
incident
wanted
with
to avoid.
droids? Wasn't there an incident with droids?
At Galfest,
Yeah.
it wasn't too bad. People just started smuggling droids in,
Right.
knowing. The main issue with Galfest was attendance was larger than we anticipated.
Okay.
So we were anticipating maybe like 300 or 400 people would come to Galfest, and that the server wouldn't have any struggle with that. And that's not really too many people. What ended up happening is we had like 900 people show up to Galfest. So
Okay, right. So 3 times
so
what you were expecting.
right. So think about it this way: like there wasn't a lot in the city. I mean, there was just people, maybe a few items here and there, the NPCs and buildings.
Is it
But
just
what
all the
ended up
events that are running at the same time with all those events that are being
no,
generated, or no?
what it was is like people were refreshing the scanner page over and over and
Oh,
over and over
okay.
again to see where things were to move between games. And there's just so many people that it generates events scanning the same thing, and it started getting database locks of like loading the same queries over and over again. And then you had patrolling creatures. People would buy a creature and
Yeah.
or buy a droid, and the droids would start patrolling the city. And then you'd have 800 people loading the same patrol actions, and it started like crunching the system. So we disabled patrols. Like we went into the code, we disabled patrols for the entire game during Galaxy Fest, so that didn't happen. It helped a lot. And we also disabled a few other things like room events in the shuttles and stuff to make the lag a little better. And that helped a lot. Like it really cut down. My favorite thing that happened though is after we fixed all those issues and we had fixed the patrol problem, we fixed the scanning problem with all the people looking at too many things at once in the room events and auto travel in the rooms and all those kind of things causing problems. We decided to make it worse. So Kyle had this idea. I said, "What if there was a balloon that people had to pop?" And so
Oh yeah.
we added the balloon that people had to chase around the city, and everyone had like jetpacks. And we're trying to I think we added a jetpack vendor just for the sake of people being able to get a jetpack and chase after the balloon to pop it.
See, I was smart. I brought one with me.
What ended up happening is we had 900 people in one city chasing a single item and trying to click it at the same time. And so all the work we had done to try to get rid of the lag just
Just
came right
completely
back
ruined.
because people were just spamming the refresh button trying to get the stupid balloons.
I hated that. That thing made me so angry. I didn't have
And
time to watch it like a hawk, so I'd finally see the balloon and I'd go over to it, and somebody would get there like right before I got there.
the best part was we didn't tell people how many pops of the balloon it would take to actually pop it.
Uh huh.
We set a variable. I forget what it was. I think it was like 200 or something silly like that. And or no, I think at first it didn't have a limit. I think it was just a troll. I think it always moved somewhere else. I don't think it ever
So,
hit
was
its
it
limit.
planned to even give a reward from the beginning, or was that decided later?
I can't remember at this point. To be honest, I don't
Uh,
remember. I just remember at first I didn't add in a max. I just put it in there, and I kept count of how many times each person kicked the balloon. I just wanted. I think it was kind of like the whale, April Fool's joke, where people would click on the whale, and I counted how many times people clicked on the whale and then it was like Thresk, I think, that had the highest count, and so I made fun of him for. Or no, it was Remus. It was Remus, not Thresk.
okay. One of
Different
them.
blue
They're all
person.
the same. They're all the same.
Yeah, all blue people are the same.
They're all the same.
But yeah, like it was basically the same thing where we had the balloon out there and people were popping it, and I was just gonna give it to whoever clicked it the most after like a certain amount of time. But that felt very arbitrary, so I think we added like
Okay.
more of a in game to it. And then for the we did it again. We did it a second time because the first time it was like Mando jetpacks, and the second time it was like Mando belts, I think.
Okay, yeah.
And people were going crazy for that.
All right. Well, fast forward. DC Showdown. That's what we're here to talk about. I mean, that's not the only thing we're here to talk about, but DC Showdown. What? What the heck is it?
So
I mean, anybody who's paying attention should kind of know what it is. But just in case, what is the DC Showdown? Explain generally.
So generally speaking, I guess it's an answer to like at least as long as I've been here, 5 years or more, and staff request of, hey, my group has been very active. We do a lot of things. We can coordinate with each other. We've done operations. We've done build wars. We've done all these things in the game, and we have really nothing to show for it besides maybe a few planets, maybe some members. But really, we don't have any of our own tech. We still have to like try to bow down to whatever like the rebels or the empire or trade federation or one of those original tech groups has. And so we've always had to tell people like, no, we're not just gonna hand out tech. We're not just like you're not gonna get something for free just because you think you're a big enough group now or something. Like there's not really any measurement there. There's no there's not really like a fair way to do it. And so we said, okay, how can we give out some kind of bonus? Like, hey, how can we give someone data cards? We don't want to give away current stuff. We want something new that's fun. Like maybe some Mandalorian gear, maybe some stuff from Rogue One, like the U-wing, and maybe some like Corvette, and maybe some kind of new freighter. For it was mostly for military groups that are like governments or something along those lines.
Well, and generics helped alleviate a lot of that, but didn't didn't go far enough.
Yeah, generics were. It's hard to give away generics and just be like, okay, here's a bunch of worse stuff to make you feel better. That's going to be worth nothing because every group can have them, and now, the entire game is just like flooded with these generics, or maybe none have been made because people just think they're junk and crap, and no one wants them. Generics didn't really do their job. I mean,
Well,
they did their job for
for
a little
fighters,
bit.
helped a lot.
Yeah, like the Toscan is probably like the MVP of generics.
Oh yeah, it's so good for what
And
it is.
maybe the GR75 too. Like those are both good. That's generic, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's
Is the
generic.
GR75 generic? Oh, hey, you know what? This is perfect. We have a user submitted question. Can you believe that? You know who it's
Wow, what's
from?
that? Is it from Thresk?
No, it's not from Thresk. Although there is, I'll say the one from Thresk now too. Just let me pull it up here. Oh wait, I have to go into Discord. We're leaving this all in. We're not editing any of this. Are you okay with that, viewer? Yeah, you can't even say if you're okay with it or not. I can't even hear you. Yeah, that's right. This is my world. Oh yeah, here's the one from Thresk. We've seen the Chiss get Scylla and the Jawas get Tatooine. When can we expect me to get Melita Dan?
Well, I think I speak for everybody, especially Jado, the king of Falim, when I say it is time and it is up to him, not me. I mean, in theory, I could just do it, but
In theory.
in theory, but that would be admin bias and stepping in.
That's a
Whereas me
very
telling
diplomatic
Jado,
response.
yeah, me telling Jado he has to do it is not admin bias. It's just
Okay.
admin pressure.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to Jado's user submitted question then.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, when was the G1A made generic and why?
I think it was before I was an admin or ASIM or
I don't
anything.
think that's true. I don't think that's true.
It might not be, but I'm pretty sure it was. At least I
Is
wasn't
there a
involved in
record?
the decision. Maybe somewhere.
Can
I
we
don't know.
reverse these? I'm not asking this. Jado's asking this, not me. Jado, just to be clear. Can it be reversed? Who
I
did
mean,
it? Can it be reversed?
anything can be reversed. I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? Like anything you can do, we can undo.
All right.
So, but that said, I doubt it. like both the T-Wing and the G1A that you guys have DCs for, I think
Yeah, you hear that, Jado?
went generic, but I'm pretty sure that was before me. I don't think it was after me.
Well,
If it was
the T
during me, I
wings
wasn't
were. The
involved.
T wings were, but I don't know about that G1A. I don't know about that G1A.
Yeah,
But
usually if I
anyways,
made something generic, it was
uh,
because the group asked me to make it generic,
we're
not
we're
because.
we're getting into the rigmarole here. I don't want to get into the rigmarole. Let's
Yeah.
get back to the topic at hand. DC
Yes, sir.
Showdown. All right, so generics they helped, but they didn't help enough. And now we have the Kendosi, the U-wing, the Turtle. I'm never gonna remember the full name for that, and the MC-30B. So was the idea making those ships to make stuff that's like best in class, or just to make ships that were good enough to fill a role?
I don't know if I'd call them best in class. Like, I
Ewing's
mean,
pretty
looking at
good
the,
as a gunboat.
yeah, I think looking at them all, some people have called them best in class, but I wouldn't say they're necessarily like they're best at certain roles in some cases. Like the U-wing is a really great cap ship disabler, like for capturing cap ships in bandit fields or something.
Right.
It's a good support and travel ship, but it's not anything amazing. Like it doesn't really have a what we're looking for. Like it's not good against fighters. It's not really good against other gunboats. It's kind of like specifically towards maybe disabling corvettes and being a decent transport ship or something. Like, and it's a good support role. It can be a tank. Like, I mean, it's not like it's bad against fighters. It's not good against fighters, if that makes sense.
Right.
And
Well, and
you know,
Goji beats
this is
out bulk, right? You can have
Goji is
6 of them.
equal to bulk. If you have six of them, it's pretty much exactly equal. And but the problem with the Goji, people are like, oh yeah, it's meant to equal the bulk, but people have made good points on both sides. 1 point for the good on the Goji is it's only 2 slots, so
Right.
it's more modular. You know, you can plug it in somewhere and
Yeah.
it'll
Yeah.
fit a little easier. So one of the ideas I had with the Goji when we first made it was like plugging it in with a fleet. So you have like your CR-90, which is an 8 slot Corvette, put in a Goji at 2 slot, and then maybe a couple of interceptors or something like that as the other 2 slots, or a gunboat, whatever. And you go out there and you can, unsquad the Goji, attack something, and then we're working on loot and recycling and helping things get a little easier for going out and kind of gathering things and doing quests and looting and protecting your stuff. So just the fact that it's 2 slots makes it so much easier to fit into some kind of battle fleet or recovery fleet or
Right.
any of the above. And then on the contrary, though, it's about what 2/3 the materials of a bulk freighter. I think I've heard someone say. So it
So
costs
it's
about
cheaper.
2/3 as much as a bulk freighter, but you have to pay for 6 of them versus 2 bulk freighters. So
Right.
they're more expensive for carrying as much stuff, but they're a little bit faster in sublight and they're a little more modular.
It's more
So
annoying to manage passengers too.
yeah, I mean,
And
there's like I
I
said,
mean, raw weight cap, volume cap, it beats bulk with 6 of them,
right,
but
barely,
it's not
but
as
yeah.
convenient.
The other thing with it too is, I don't think I'm giving too many spoilers here, but if you look at the development chart, we have things like NPC cargo routes, we have things like asteroid bandits and asteroid mining kind of encounters. So think of it this way: if you want to like automate, surface to make all your mines on the surface to a station in orbit or something like that,
Ooh.
maybe the little Goji is a little better for that since it's faster in sublight and is a little smaller, so you can give it an escort to protect it from maybe some kind of encounter it might have along the way.
Speaking of the development chart, if someone wanted to find that, where would they find that?
So on your kind of sidebar where you see a picture of your character, there's like a little wrench above it, like the tabs, technical menu. In that first little piece of the menu under portal, it says development projects. And there's a whole slew of them in there you can look through. It has like, prerequisites for projects, main projects, goals for the project of release dates, and all kinds
It's
of
a
things.
big
Like
list.
it's a huge list. Like, and I'm involved in maybe half of them right now, as far as either planning with documents or starting to code them or doing testing or. advising on them or just peeking in. The other half, I haven't. I try to avoid, jumping into too many things. Like R&D, I've not really looked into much at all, but I know that they're working on it. And then like commodities and all those kind of things. Encounters, I'm trying to code up myself. Like I was waiting on the NPC vendors to get done before I started doing that one, which got finished just as you know, probably like a month ago, right before this showdown started.
Right. Oh, hey,
Also,
vendors.
what's that?
Another user submitted question. This one from me. Can the Verpine get storage rooms?
Probably.
Probably. So it's possible.
I mean, yeah.
All right.
Let's see. If I go to the room map tool and look up the Verpine class heavy cruiser,
Are we going to get Verpine storage rooms on the show?
maybe.
Maybe.
Medical, insurance, docking bay. Oh man, this is a big ship.
It is.
Where would you put a storage room if you were to add a storage room to it? On the bottom level, maybe?
Where's the entrance?
It's like in the
Entrance
middle.
is floor 1.
Yeah. Floor 1 towards the back, the very back.
Yeah, probably the bottom.
Yeah, bottom front, I think, just to be as annoying as possible.
Just make the whole bottom all storage rooms.
Maybe not that.
Those side rooms, those look good.
Yeah.
All
I'll do the
right.
nose. The nose will be a storage room, and then all those little side rooms in the front will be storage rooms.
Hey, look at that. You're welcome, Combine. Remember who did this for you? It was me.
Boom. There it is. Well, it takes a minute to update, but there it is.
Let's go. Let's go. Can I get a based and Verpine pilled in the chat? There's no chat, but you can post that on the YouTube comments. All right, we've talked about the ships. How do you get the ships? How do you get the DCs?
So, the DCs will come from either winning the championships or placing very high in the championship. So, what will happen is there's 3 events. So, groups that qualified, which are active groups that have 4 or more members who don't have any direct ties to, groups that have unique. So, you can't be like the Empire and compete. You can't be someone that's owned by the Empire and compete. You can't be, a rebel and owned by the rebels or whatever and compete. But you could be like an ally of the rebels who doesn't have any of their own tech or something like that. You could be an ally of the Imperials and not have your own tech. You could be, a friend of Trade Federation or any of those other groups that have tech, but you can't be like owned by them or tied to them directly, things like that.
Right.
So it ended up being about 60 something, 70 something factions that qualified. And then we got 63 factions that actually signed up. And then of those 63 that signed up, about 58 of them showed up to the event. So most of them came. So once they were eligible, they started doing the bracket system, and we have a space bracket and a ground bracket. So the way we're doing the kind of standings is the winner of the space bracket, the winner of the ground bracket, both get a spot in the top 6, which are who are gonna get the DCs. So sounds a little complicated, but it's not so bad. So there are 6 slots in the championship circle that can get claimed. So the 6 slots are first through 6th place. Once they finish that kind of little mini tournament they're going to do, first place gets first in the draft pick. So there's 4 data cards: the Goji, Kandosi, MC30B, and the Ewing. And your placement in the champion circle determines what draft pick you are.
Okay.
And you notice there's 6 teams, but only 4 data cards. So what it is everyone gets to pick 1 data card, but then first and second place get to pick again. So what will happen is first place picks first, second place, third place, fourth place, then first place, then second place again. Everyone should get at least at their favorite, unless maybe you're in 4th place and the other 3 take the 2 uses of it.
Okay.
But the odds aren't against you. I mean, Kandosi might be a popular choice, but it's not guaranteed. There might be groups that really want to do a freighter, or groups that really want the Ewing or the Corvette or whatever. So,
right.
But I have heard that Kandosi is a pretty popular choice. So
it's a good ship.
Yeah, I mean it's basically meant to be somewhere between MC60, MC80, BSD, kind of sitting in that ballpark.
Right.
Like it's definitely not better than an MC80. It's not better than like a VSD, but it's in the ballpark.
Right.
And it's similar to them. It's not really worse than them, but it's not really better than them either.
Right.
kind of like I said, the things are not the best in their class, but they're equal to maybe some of the other best, or at least competitive, and useful.
Yeah, competitive is a good way to put it. Well, so far, what are we? We're approaching at the time of recording. I'll try to get this out before it ends, but at the time of recording, we're like approaching the finals, right?
Yeah, I mean today is Wednesday, basically the end of Wednesday, it's going into Thursday. If you want a reference point for the recording, and Saturday and Sunday are the finals. So people have this week, and they had last weekend, to do
Or
as many
maybe they
matches as they
had,
possibly
or maybe
can.
they had last weekend and last weekend.
True, they've had like 2 weeks at this point, to
Well,
be
no, I
honest.
mean, in case I'm late releasing this.
Oh, I see what you mean. But I did give them an extra week ahead of that even too. So they've had like 2 weeks probably at this point to do matches. So
Should wrap up
we had
this weekend.
yeah. Oh yeah, it's definitely wrapping up this weekend. Like there's a posted schedule and everything.
Yeah, I didn't read
So
that.
yeah, no worries. So Saturday, so kind of the plan is that Friday night is the kind of deadline for the first round of ground to be done, but most of that's already done, except for like I think all of them will be done by the deadline or before the deadline, so that's not going to be an issue. But what it is going to be like Saturday at like 8 a.m. in the combine time is the deadline for getting the next round done, and then 11 is the deadline for the next round. And then 1 o'clock is the deadline, in the afternoon, 1300, whatever you want to call it. Then 1500, 1700, and then like 20 is the end, or 22, or something. Every couple of hours basically
Right.
is the deadline for the next round. So you do a round, and then you start your next round basically right away, and
And we're
back to
split
back.
into space and ground combat, so there's 2 winners
Right.
brackets and 2 losers brackets.
So Saturday is all space. So space on Saturday we'll be finishing up. Right now, we're already almost done with space. Like space is probably 80% done. And so on Saturday we're gonna hit round 4 to start, I think it looks like. Which some of them have already done it and we'll have done it by Friday and Saturday. So we might even be starting at round 5 and then maybe round 5 or 6 of the losers bracket. So Saturday should be a pretty relaxed day, to be honest, because we're just going to be finishing up the space bracket, getting that done maybe like 5 or 6 hours of matches, and that should be wrapped up. Yeah, maybe more, maybe less, depends on how people do. Saturday we're wrapping up space, and then we'll have the finale for space either Saturday night or Sunday morning, depending on how people feel and who's in the champions and all that. So we'll figure that out this weekend. But this champions of space will be done either Saturday night or Sunday morning, and we'll know who wins this. We'll know who's won the space bracket at that point. And then Sunday's the same thing, such as the ground bracket. So ground needs to finish all their matches by the end of that day. So we'll have 8 a.m. again, round 2 or 3, or I think it's round 3 we're doing. I'll look it up in a minute. But ground we have round 3 starting off Sunday morning, and we just blast through all the rounds, and every couple of hours doing the next round, next round, next round. And by the end of the day, Sunday, we should have the finals at least scheduled for either Monday morning or that night. And then Monday morning, we'll know for sure who's won space, who's won ground, who's won mystery. Because mystery round I haven't really talked about, but the deadline for that is Saturday night. And then that's just like a puzzle, a little bit of random, a little bit of puzzle, a little bit of skill checks, a little bit of luck. I guess was from the random, but it's kind of a mix of things, and it's kind of like a wild card round.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like if you didn't do well in space, you didn't do well on ground, or you just got lucky with the kind of the RNG and maybe having some of the right skills, maybe having good puzzle mind or something, whatever it was, maybe a combination of all the above.
You can get a leg up.
You get the lowest score, which is a good thing in that case, because
Like
the
golf.
more time, yeah, the more work it takes to get through, the higher score you rack up, which means the worse you did. And so we already have a few teams that are in the lead. As of this recording, I want to say, let's see, I think it was like Cohen Sayre that had the highest, or not the highest, the lowest score, and maybe Sanctuary who had the next, or maybe it was Sanctuary who beat Cohen Sayre. Yeah, I think Sanctuary is the best right now as far as score goes. And that's going to change at a moment's notice as teams finish up.
Right.
And so the winner of mystery round gets a spot in the finals as well. So
Okay.
like I said, it's kind of a wild card. And then so that's your 3 out of 6. So your winner of the space bracket, winner of the ground bracket, which we'll know Sunday night, and winner of mystery round, which we'll also know Saturday night.
Okay.
Those 3 get an automatic spot in the champions circle, which is 6 people. The other 3 slots come from top performers. So it's a bit harder to give an answer of who's going to be in there because it can really depend. So let's say, as an example, your team gets into the top like 5 teams on space, but they don't win. And let's say your team gets into like maybe the top 10 on mystery round, but they don't win. And then let's say they get to the top like 8 of ground, but they don't win. So you did well in every match, like not every match, but every category.
Right.
But you didn't win anything.
But not well enough.
Yeah, you didn't win any of those brackets. But between doing well in all 3, there's a good chance you're going to get yourself a spot in the champion circle. Because basically, we take your placement and we add them all together and we say, okay, you got, you were in the top 4 base, so you get a 4. You were number 3 in mystery round, so you get a 3. You were number 8 in ground, so you get an 8. You combine those numbers. I forgot what I said already, so that's like 4, 3, 7 plus 8, you get 15. So it's 15. So you have a score of 15. That's your team score for the showdown. And then another team, they all have their own placements and everything and blah, blah, blah. But let's say 15 is a really good score, and you end up being the number 1 slot. Because the other teams that already got first place, they don't count. They're not going to be given a team score. They're already in the champion circle, so they're not going to take up a slot. So the other teams, we compare all those team scores. Whoever has the lowest team score, meaning they place the best overall, they're going to get the next 3 slots. And if there's any ties, we'll figure out a tiebreaker, but I doubt there'll be any ties.
So if you don't win the bracket, you still have a chance of winning something.
Yeah, and then you'll get into this champion circle, and those 6 people will then do a kind of a free-for-all tournament. So what I'll end up doing, I'm not giving away the exact details yet. Maybe people already know by the time this gets released, who knows. But I'll take 1 member from each team and throw them into a ground match of some kind, and they have to compete to win that. I'll take 1 different member from each team and throw them into a space match, and then that kind of combined placement, again, same thing. Whoever gets the best placement overall with the lowest score, they will get first place, second place, third place, fifth, fourth place, fifth place, sixth place, and that will determine the draft order for the picks. So even if you win space and you feel like you're on top of the world, you still have to compete in the champion circle to figure out your draft. Like just because you won space and you're the first one to win a thing doesn't mean you're the first draft pick or anything like that.
Okay, right. All right. Well, wait, you have anything else to say on that?
I was going to say that a couple other things is that with the scheduling, a lot of teams have had the dropout. And
yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Okay, go for it then.
No, go ahead. You already talked about it. Go ahead. Yeah, you run the show. It's your show now.
Okay, I'll run the show. So,
you've had groups drop out due to scheduling issues.
Yeah, so scheduling issues, some groups dropped out, and it's one of those things where we feel bad about it because our initial announcement was, hey, we're gonna do this over a weekend, and we decided doing because like I said, we had that Saturday and Sunday schedule I told you about. We were gonna do that from the start,
right,
and make it even tighter of a schedule, and it was gonna be all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and we were like, people don't seem to like this idea. Like we asked a few people about it, and they said that was too intense and that it kind of ruined the idea of giving it to the people who could be online the longest, and that not everyone could dedicate a weekend, and blah 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 blah, lots of reasons, and they were all valid. Like I agreed, like that might be a bit much for a weekend. Okay, we'll give it a week. Like we'll spread it out. Like maybe the first weekend we'll try to get all the space stuff done, let it leak into the week a little bit. Then the middle of the week we'll maybe start the ground and let the ground go until that weekend. So we'll make it a week long, weekend to weekend kind of a thing, and that's what it is now for the most part. And when we expanded it to a week, we didn't hear anything. Like we got no feedback at first. Like it's now going to be a week long. Nothing. Silence. Like okay, I guess that's maybe a good thing. And then
everyone's happy.
Yeah, and then we said okay, released the brackets, got everyone signed up. Everything went smoothly. Like and all the setup and all the sign-ups and everything, and I was pretty happy with that. I was like, okay, cool. This went a lot smoother than I thought it did. Didn't have to pull any teeth. So June 15th, people submit their final teams to me, like I said on the deadline. June 16th, I released the bracket, released the team rosters, and said, okay, let's get playing this. And I said, you know what? Since we already have team brackets, we already have rosters, we already have everything prepped and coded, and I've prepped everything as much as I think I could. Might as well open it up. Hey, if you guys want to start doing your matches early, you can. There's no pressure. It's still due on Saturday like it was before, for the round one of space or whatever. But otherwise, don't worry about it. Start doing your matches now if you want. Have some fun. We'll start doing them. And man, that's when the feedback came in, because it was like people. I think there was a disconnect. Like maybe I should have posted a more exact schedule or something, because when I posted that the event would be a weekend and then I posted it would be a week, people seemed to think somehow it wouldn't be scheduled or something, because once I started announcing, hey, round one's due Saturday, people started raging that we changed due dates and that we were making it a tight timeline and stuff. I'm like,
but it was the same due date. You just gave people time before.
Yeah, it was the exact same due date. Like I'm like, the event was always going to start on the 26th. The event was always going to be, finish your first match that day. It was always going to be that. I just gave you extra time. And I think people just didn't realize that this is going to be a scheduled, tight deadline, like do a match a day kind of a thing. I think people did not catch that message in my initial announcements, which, maybe I should have been a little more clear about scheduling, but I thought that an event lasting a week involving this many teams, maybe 2 and 2 be put together there, but, miscommunication on both sides maybe. So we get to the point where, I start realizing, okay, people are more upset about this timeline than they were about the original timeline. And so we get to the actual start date, and we did okay. We got through all the first rounds because they had a whole 2 weeks to do it.
Right.
So we got through all the first rounds. We got through all the second rounds. Even got through all the third rounds pretty quickly, within the first few days of the actual event time. And then people were not sure they were going to be able to finish it, and they were thinking it needed to extend for weeks and weeks and weeks. And that was definitely not the original plan. And none of the staff, not a single one of us, wants it to last more than the 2 week, though, 1.5 weeks. So we basically dedicated to it.
It would be kind of absurd to have it stretch into 3 weeks, a month.
Yeah, it's just too much, and people complained about the old events being way too long, and
right.
There's just no way to make it work for everybody. No one's gonna be happy in the end. There's no way to please them all, and I know this hasn't been the best solution for it, but everything's a learning experience to make it better next time. In any case, we decided, okay, let's make things just the worst of both worlds. It has to be done this weekend. We gave them too much time, and now we should go back to our original format. So we said, okay, this weekend we're going back to our original format. We're going to finish it off the way we were meant to do it in the first place. We're going to do a tournament with set times for each round throughout the day, and it's all going to get done. And understandably, people didn't like that either. Some people really liked it. Some people were happy that it just got scheduled that way. So a lot of the frustration was, hey, these teams aren't very active. They can only schedule a match every other day or so.
Right.
And it's going to last months if they keep it like this. And
now,
a lot of those things had to drop. I think if I'd stuck with my original plan rather than giving in to some of the complaints, it actually would have been better for everybody in the end.
Hey, next time.
But, yeah.
And can I participate next time?
Maybe. I don't even know what's going to be next time.
Okay,
so.
Well, whatever it is, make it so that I can participate.
All right, I'll keep that in mind.
Okay, thanks. I love you, Baugrems.
I think we should have kept it as an intense tournament over the weekend, learned our lessons from that, and moved on. Instead, we've had 3 weeks now of slowly scheduled matches and people struggling with schedules and people getting angry about other groups not scheduling quickly enough. And it's just been trying to get people to coordinate with each other. Not the best of plans. Speaking of coordinating with each other, people are tagging me like crazy. Okay.
Are they? Well, hey, listen, I ran out of water. Jick, play the intermission music.
Man, that Impa guy, he's the worst, right?
Hold on. I'm busy.
The Impa IXS show will resume momentarily. Thank you for watching. I love you and only want what's best for you.
All right, while Baugrems takes care of things, I'm going to do an ad read. You can hear him typing in the background. We are sponsored today by CSGORoll.com. CSGORoll.com, the number one CSGO gambling website? What's not to like about it? You buy crates, you can do case battles, you can do case openings. I mean, there's so many opportunities to lose money, but make money. You'll definitely make money. There's no way you can lose. Use promo code CashMoneyMillionaire. That's all lowercase, no spaces. CashMoneyMillionaire. CSGORoll.com. Become a millionaire. A billionaire. The sky's the limit. You'll definitely win.
Didn't you win like $300 on like a knife or something like that?
Yeah, but I spent $300, so.
Perfect.
Cut that out. Cut that out. That's not in the ad.
Sorry.
Roll the clip. I don't have a clip. All right, I think it's time for more viewer-submitted questions. We have one from Falcon. He says, "Why are you the way that you are?"
That does sound like a Falcon question. Well, you see, about 30 years ago,
Okay.
I was born.
How'd that happen?
Well, you see, there was a porg and a unicorn.
Oh.
And some interesting things happened that we can't talk about on this PG show.
This is a family show. This is a family show.
Exactly. And I was born and instantly became an admin on Combine the second I was born. That's it.
All right. There you go, Falcon. You have your answer. All right. We've got another one from Game Vice. Or how do you say that? Game Vice? What kind of name is that? Game's not a first. Game's not a first name. That's what?
That's how I would say it.
Game Vice. From Cohen Sayer. Is that how you say that? If that's not how you say that, write into the show. And by write into the show, I mean leave a YouTube comment. What ship did you like the most of the new data cards?
What do I like the most of the new data cards?
What do you like the most?
That's tough. Like, I mean, I kind of picked them initially in the first place. Well, I mean, Kyle and I did, but... What?
So all of them?
Maybe not. I mean, I definitely like the Ewing, I think. I like the design.
Which one do you like the least?
Oof. That's a tough one. I think the Corvette, the MC30 is probably the one I like the least. Not because of the artwork, not because of the stats, but it's the least exciting, I guess. Like, it's cool because it's a good Corvette and it's a carrier. It's a good mobile base and stuff like that. And it's not that I don't like it. It's that it's probably not as cool to me as the other ones are.
All right.
Don't think it's as exciting as all.
Well, we've got another one from Game Vice. This one seems to have taken a sinister turn. How have you not killed the player base yet?
I don't know. We're working as hard as we can to do that, and it doesn't seem to have worked yet. So we're not doing it quite right, I guess.
All right. Well, this one's actually good. From the same guy again. What ideas got cut for this? Are there any that? Oh wait, no, hold on. Cut that, Jit, cut that. What ideas got cut for this? What the hell? Any that come up later, maybe? What does that mean? Game Vice? What does that mean? Just answer the first part. What ideas got cut, if any?
So, I mean, I kind of mentioned earlier the idea of doing it in 1 weekend got cut because that was just complete. Like I said, I should have stuck to that. Anyway, skipping that. Other ideas that got cut would be like we had an early idea before we even announced it or fully formed a plan for it of kind of a chaotic arena. So think about it this way. You have 60-something teams. You have one system, and everybody gets like a champion in like a TIE fighter.
And they're all just in the one system trying to survive.
And honestly, I think that might have been before Warsim was even released. And I think I decided, that sounds like a Warsim. So we're going to add that as a Warsim. That's basically what we did for Warsim. It's just you're in a ship and good luck out there.
Right.
So we decided not to do that for Showdown. We decided just to make that stick to Warsim.
Okay.
How many times have I said Warstone in the last like 30 seconds?
I think 4 times. Run the tape back. Run the tape back.
But in any case, other than that, I think we also had the idea for more of like a PvE kind of a thing. So
Okay.
like instead of it being faction versus faction kind of fighting each other, we put them in an arena with maybe some goals. Like that like the ground arena is kind of a maze of walls and buildings and stuff they have to fight around and use as cover. Yeah, one of the other ideas was kind of having a whole city of that maze, and there's like tough enemies throughout, and the team starts off in the top and they have to get to the bottom, and if they can make it without getting like their NPCs killed, then they win a certain amount of points, or however far they get, something like that, like
Right.
how far they get or how fast they do it or how healthy they are at the end when they do get it done, something along those lines, where they're judged on how well they perform in this kind of gauntlet. And that might still be a thing, like that might be more of a quest thing, like you sign up for a team and you go do a quest together. It doesn't even have to be your faction, and you have to go through like some kind of gauntlet of sorts to defeat a bunch of enemies and survive, or figure out a puzzle.
Well, we're getting towards the end here, but before we go, let's talk combat and combat changes, specifically space combat. How long ago were the space combat upgrades implemented, and were they done for the showdown, or was that just? I mean, obviously that's something that needed to be done anyways, but was that in mind when you were making the changes?
No, not at all. We made the combat changes because they were just needed. So I basically, ever since, like we said, the initial release was April Fool's Day a few years ago, and did the Meridian event not too long after that, and we have been watching space combat, and we saw that the number one thing that happened, this is a little bit of an older change, but the number one thing that happened was people just like either had Y wings or B wings, and they'd snipe things, and
Right.
they would be kings because you could set at range 4, use a B wing or a Y wing, and just blast things and win every single time without much effort. And so we did the range change, where both space and ground ranges are more like an optimal thing versus a promise, like this is your range. And that was great. That was a good change. I don't think there were many complaints about it, other than people who like the farm and have no risk, which, sorry.
Lame.
Right. And so that was fine. That was good. But the other problem was that you'd go to like dog fighting, like fighting other people with, not really, you can't really fight other people, but fighting bandits and stuff. The number one thing to bring was a B wing or a Y wing, because they had torpedoes, they could blast things, and they were still the best.
Right.
Yeah. And it was like, that's stupid. A bomber shouldn't be taking out interceptors. A bomber shouldn't be like the best thing in the game just because it has explosives. And
Right.
that's
The only
fine.
benefit to an interceptor shouldn't just be its sublight speed.
Right. It was kind of dumb. The meta was definitely around bombers, and like there are people who just bring B wings to all the events and all the space combat bandits and just wreck them as the best dogfighters. And that was stupid.
And this changes garrisons a lot too, like what you might put.
Oh yeah,
as a
for
garrison
sure.
Squadron.
So the changes we made is I kind of wrote up this document saying, hey, this needs to be more like a rock paper scissors game of sorts. So we need bombers to be great against corvettes. We need corvettes to be good against interceptors and other cap ships and gunboats and stuff. And we need fighters and interceptors to be good against bombers. And gunboats kind of can be a good role, probably more for heavy freighters later on and light freighters, but more so kind of a heavy enforcer that's not going to destroy fighters, but not going to lose the fighters very easily either. So we need something that's like that, not so that certain ships are just weirdly OP. So we decided a couple of things. One, maneuverability needed to be more important. It was already pretty important, but needed to be more important. So what ended up happening was like a B-wing had maneuverability of like 5, I think, and a TIE interceptor had maneuverability of 8. What it was before is like that was just a small increase of being effective. Like the 8 was a little bit better than the 5, but it wasn't enough different. Yeah. So the bombers usually would just crush the TIE fighter like they were nothing. And so we changed it. We said, okay, the difference in maneuverability widens that gap. So before it's like, yeah, you might have a 6 in maneuverability, I might have an 8 in maneuverability. We're not that far apart, and really it makes a difference, but it doesn't make too much of a difference. Like it still comes down to weapons and hull instead of like who can maneuver, and like it doesn't make a lot of sense still. So we decided the difference. So there's it's called the delta maneuverability. So you have 8, I have 5 in the B-wing versus the 8 in the TIE Interceptor. There's a difference of 3. So that 3 difference kind of like widens that equation a little bit more. So the Interceptor has that much more of an advantage. So instead of it just being, oh, you're 3 ahead of me, it's now you're 3 ahead of me. Like you have an 8, and you have this difference between us that's kind of giving you a bigger bonus. And it's hard to explain, but
Makes
the
sense.
idea is that the difference between the two will make a difference rather than just their hard-coded numbers.
Right.
Because it used to be basically your dodge skill was your maneuverability. So, if you have a 5 in dodge on the ground, you can dodge most shots. If you have an 8 in maneuverability, you can dodge most shots in space.
And then also the length changes have helped with that too, right?
Yeah, so on top of that, now that the maneuverability thing came in, we also did the length thing. So the problem was that Corvettes, like if you were in the science feud with those Bandit Meridians or other Corvettes, Corvettes destroy people. Like,
oh yeah,
like if you bring up
burned away fighters,
right? Like you bring in even B-wings, which were super powerful back then, Corvettes would rip through them because it was like one shot, one kill, one shot, one kill, one shot, one kill, and that's it. And we figured, okay, they can still hit and do a lot of damage, but it's a little unfair that, like, if the Raider had existed back then, the Raider would just be like, oh, I have 18 shots with concussions, you have 12 TIE fighters, okay, goodbye to your 12 TIE fighters,
Right.
So now, like, if you look at Showdown, the Corvette, the Raider, is still amazing against TIE fighters. Like, we've seen rounds where perfectly healthy TIE fighters get attacked by the Raider, and they lose 5 TIE fighters, like, in one round. Just gone. We've seen that because it's meant to be anti-fighter, interceptor especially. But imagine bringing up like R41s, it would just wreck those.
Right.
But interceptors being the best and most dodgy ships in the game, they can get away with being attacked by the Raider a little bit more, so that it's not just a total wash like it might be. That's why we picked the ships that we did. Ships that wouldn't just easily be wiped out, and ships that wouldn't wipe out something else like too quickly. So the Raider. The problem, I wanted to use the Raider because it was new and people hadn't gotten to use it yet. But the problem I was finding is pretty much any fighter I used and any bomber I used was getting wiped out by the Raider before it could do anything to it. So I was like, okay, the Y-wing is boring, but it can handle it, and the B-wing maybe is the choice here, but it's it's maybe too powerful. So I ran a bunch of tests, and the B-wing actually isn't too powerful. It takes 4 or 5 good rounds to take out the Raider with the B-wings if you have a good pilot. If the Raider has a good pilot and you don't have a great B-wing pilot, you're starting to see like the B-wing winning or the Raider winning those fights.
Okay.
Like because it's meant to be anti-fighter, and if you have a bad pilot in the bomber who can't dodge and can't hit, they're gonna be like going against this guy with the max skills. We see bombing squads get wiped out by a good pilot because someone didn't have skills in their bombers. My favorite part, though, with this little triangle, well,
Square.
I guess it's kind of a triangle. Yeah, the gunboats kind of sit in the middle of the triangle, so it's sort of a triangle.
Okay.
What I've built is that nothing one-shots each other. Nothing like can clear out. I mean, if you're really, really good, and like if they put their 0 pilot in the TIE fighters and you put your 5-5 pilot in the Raider, you might be able to wipe out the TIE fighters in one go, but it's doubtful. You might come close, though. It's possible. But the point is that it should be a fight. Like, if you're down to just your TIE fighters and your Raider, and the enemy just has a Raider, your TIE fighters can still attack it and do some damage. My favorite thing is that, it's all balanced out pretty well, where something can beat something else pretty easily, but in the end, everything can still fight each other and not worry too much about being totally wiped out. So, with the exception of the B-wings and the TIEs, like, we've seen, unless there's a really bad TIE pilot, which we've also seen, you should not be engaging them with your TIE fighter, with your B-wings, I mean. Like, I've seen rounds where the really good TIE fighter pilot and a bad B-wing pilot go up against each other, and the TIEs just rip the B-wings to pieces, like half of them gone in a single round. And people were shocked by that because the old meta before the combat changes
right, slam B-wings and everything.
Was slam B-wings at everything. And I think some groups came into the showdown thinking that. Because round 1, I watched a few groups take the B-wing and just go right at the TIE fighters and then get wrecked.
But look at how many guns it has. Look at how much hull it has.
But considering maneuverability, length bonuses, maybe not so much in that case. I don't think so, but
Yeah, it's
maneuverability and all
it's
that.
so much better now. So much better now.
Yeah, and it's funny because most people seem to enjoy the changes, and there's definitely some balancing still to do it. I understand that. Like, it's not a perfect system quite yet or by any means, but for the most part, it's been a lot of more fun because
Yeah,
people aren't
space
just farming
combat.
anymore.
Honestly, space combat sucked before.
Yeah, for sure.
It was
Like,
just boring.
I think the name of my document that I submitted was Space Combat Sucks, actually.
And you were right. So with the new changes and the matches that you've seen so far, well, first, what's been the most exciting match? Does one stick out to you?
Yeah, I think my favorite match was maybe last night, or
Which would be
I think
Tuesday.
I think it was last night. Time all blends together now with all these matches, but there were two groups. I want to say, let me look at my schedule. I have too many things. It was like Arkid and Envid, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was Arkid and Envid last night. They came down to, they were like matching each other blow for blow. So like, B-Wing hit Raider, B-Wing hit Raider, ties hit ties, ties hit ties. Everything was just like a match. They're just matching each other in every single attack. And then it came down to like, they both just had their Raiders basically at the end. And they just were shooting each other to see whose would win. And it came down to like one had like 20 hull or 10 hull, and the other one finally got destroyed. But it was like super close. We had a couple that were close, but I think that one was by far the closest. And then earlier today, the Nomads versus Ko and Sayer, I think it came down to Nomad Corvette, Nomad Bombers, and then Ko and Sayer Corvette and Ko and Sayer TIE Interceptors. And they were like, oh, TIE Interceptors can beat the Bombers, and the Bombers can beat the Raider, and then the Raiders attack each other. Like, it was kind of like, who's going to win that matchup? And I was leaning towards Nomads because the Bombers could maybe take out the Raider, and then,
Right.
And that ended up happening basically, where they docked the Bombers into the Raider, the other team docked the TIEs into their Raider, and then the Raiders chased each other in circles for like half an hour. And then eventually, the Nomads cornered the other Raider, released their bombers, hit the enemy Raider for tons of damage. The TIEs came in, couldn't finish off the bombers. Bombers finished off the other Raider, but they paid for it because the Raider, the Nomads Raider that was left, had like 10 hull or 20 hull or something like that, and kept shooting at the TIE fighters to try to take out the TIE fighters. But the TIE fighters like do enough damage where I think at the start of the engagement between the bombers and Corvette versus the Corvette and TIE fighters, I think they had like 100 or like 200 hull, and by the end they had like 20 when it was just like them versus a couple of TIE fighters.
Okay.
So, and the TIE fighters got it down to 2 hull before it was destroyed. So it was like one TIE fighter versus the Corvette, and the TIE fighter took its shot and almost took out the Corvette. Went down to 2 hull, and then the TIE fighter got destroyed. No, they still had their bombers left, so like they were winning no matter what. But
right.
They almost took out the Corvette just as a consolation prize.
Right. With the TIE fighters.
Right. Like it was interesting to watch. Like the TIE fighters can definitely hold their own and maybe work down a Corvette. And I know that the Corvette pilot for that team has good skills too. So it's not it was bad Corvette pilot versus good TIE fighter or something like that. It was, it was a pretty even matchup, I think.
Now, we can't really see how people are moving during the matches. I know you've like screen capped some stuff, but have you seen anybody like maneuvering effectively, like getting in and out of range?
Yeah,
strats.
It's funny because round one, like, so they kind of start, opposite ends of the system from each other, kind of in the middle-ish, facing each other.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much every match, round one, the two teams just kind of straight line, went for each other, and fought. And that worked great. Round two, same thing. Pretty much that's all we saw. Round three, teams started getting more creative, and we started seeing things more spread out. Like, there's an exhibition match going right now, and I don't know if viewers can really see this. Maybe you can share a screenshot or something, but I'll share that with you. That's what it looks like in the exhibition match, and that's what I've seen in a lot of battles now, is they're starting to spread out and actually, like, have some strategy going on. So we've seen a lot more strategy in the last few rounds than any of the others. And people keep saying, how come you haven't been sharing as many screen caps? And it's like, because people are actually using strategy and they can't reveal where their
Right.
people are at.
Right.
So I can't do much about it. Like I just have to be like, yeah, this team's winning, and here's the combat reports. But I can't just show you the full screenshot. Like I'm watching and I'm keeping track, but
Just
that doesn't help.
temporarily ban all of the contestants from the Discord and then reinvite them.
Yeah, but then other people could share it with them with their friends.
Oh
it's
no,
not
the snakes.
exactly.
No, do you think someone would do that?
I don't know. It's just better not to do it.
I've never seen anyone be dishonest on the computer or on StarWarsCombine.com. All right. What was the other question I had? Do you know? Oh, so for ground combat, has it been similar in the later rounds, or has it just kind of been people, standing at their preferred range and clicking attack?
Yeah, I think people have learned a lot of the meta and strategies for ground, and I've seen some bad moves still in the late rounds though, so maybe not completely, but it's been interesting. Like the ground, it's kind of like this arena. I'll give you a picture of that too, just so you can have it for the video or your own information over. But there's walls and kind of little one by one buildings in the way everywhere, so it's an obstacle course of sorts where you have lots of cover. And so teams will start each on one side behind a long wall of cover to give them time to prep. And then they walk to the end and they can start getting into the battlefield. And so what we saw originally was teams took forever to get ready. They'd walk to the end of their walls, they'd sit there and wait, and then maybe attack and start shooting from range. And then their melee might rush in to try to get some kills and lose half their NPCs on the way,
Right.
And we started seeing more strategies later where melee would rush and try to use the back cover to sneak around, and then
Okay,
they'd
and sort
find
of
out the other
leapfrog
team.
with the ranged units.
Yeah, but then both teams started doing that. So like one of my favorite things is I added musicians as one of the NPC types and gave them pistols, and everyone wrote that off as like, oh, they're going to be useless. Give that to our worst player. They've been MVPs in a lot of matches.
Oh,
Like
really?
you give the pistol team will sneak around the back just like the melee team I was talking about, and they will run into the melee team and they're like, oh hey, melee team, we'll shoot them from range 3 and just devastate them with the pistols. And then by the time they approach me, I'll just back up again and shoot them, and like they've been really good anti melee. And
That's
then
cool.
they can approach the snipers and shoot at range 0, range 1, or whatever. And snipers can't do that very well, if at all, and take out the snipers. Like they've been the pistols have been like MVPs. Like people underestimated them a lot, I think, because musician, that's not a military NPC. They're not going to be any good. Why? It still has stats. It still is an NPC. It's not any different, really.
Right.
And I think people wrote them off because it was kind of a silly joke. Oh, musicians, they're the drummer boys or whatever. And they've actually carried a lot of matches, and melee too. Melee, like
add stat buffs. Add stat buffs for musicians playing music near other units.
yeah, right. Future change. No, I think some of the strategy we've seen is like rush the enemy sniper and troopers with your melee and relbies, and then try to snipe at them from it. There's too many strategies to really think of a good one, but
right.
Like,
and it
we've
also
definitely seen
depends
more
on
than
the
just
skills of your players too. So
right. People have learned what to assign to their penguins. Everything's a penguin. People have learned what to assign to the little penguin troopers to make them better combatants. People have kind of learned, hey, if I, use my dodge or speed or give them more dexterity or more strength, maybe they'll be a tank, maybe they'll dodge, maybe they'll be a glass cannon, maybe they'll be faster. There's so many strategies that people have adopted. And I know a couple of teams have really done like complete strategy changes. Like I saw one team, like in round 1, adopt like an all strength, I think, tank approach, and they lost badly because they didn't put any skills into actually attacking or dodging or anything. They just like went full tank.
Right.
And then like the other team was maybe more balanced or something. And then I saw them change to maybe more of a glass cannon approach and maybe lose again, but not as bad. Like I don't know, it's just what you can't know what your opponent's going to do.
Right.
And what they do will greatly affect how your success is. Like if they go all glass cannon, all the best dexterity and weapon skills and stuff, and they come out like, yeah, we're going to just destroy them as much as we can, and you went all tank, it's hard to call. You might win that because you can last through their damage and hit them for what tiny bit you can hit them, and they just fall apart. But if you went, middle ground, they might just blast you too fast, or maybe vice versa. I don't know. I really don't know. Like, I really have no idea what the best strategy is, and I cannot tell you what it is or what people have even done because I don't look that closely at their skills. I'm not that much of a snoop. That sounds way too much work to look at all their NPC skills that they chose. So, yeah, there's just been changes to strategies throughout, though, I've heard.
All right. Well, whether it's space or ground, are there any other? Maybe you can tease something. Are there any other planned changes, or anything? Maybe just not even planned. Something you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's 100 things. Like, I want to work. So there's this thing I mentioned before. People have probably heard me talk about it a lot, called encounters. So encounters is basically like I don't know, like you go to a deep space system or you go to a darkness planet and you get this alert and your message says, hey, there's an emergency beacon. Go there and you maybe like fight some bandits and save a ship, and they give you a reward, either credits or they give you the ship or something like that. Other ones might be you get a GNS flash news that says, hey, in 2 weeks there's supposed to be a big surge of bandits attacking Coruscant. And then Coruscant, like the Empire, has to defend Coruscant from these bandits, defeat them all within a certain time period. If they do, they get a bonus, maybe 10% FI boost, maybe 5% production speed boost, or, those are all arbitrary. It doesn't mean anything. But, some reward to the system. And if they don't do it in time, then there's a detriment, like a decrease, like a 10% decrease in FI instead of an increase, or there's
so nothing
some kind
like
of punishment.
world-shattering, but something that's like big enough for them to. It's content, like emergent gameplay content for groups to do.
Right. For some people, it'll be the end of the world for sure because they don't defend their systems. They're going to start getting things that hurt them with maybe some FI or something, and that's their fault. They need to defend their planets. Like, come on, you've got land. You should do something with it, kind of a thing. And on the other hand, it'll lead to more things. So one of my plans, and I can't say this is the full development team plan or anything like that, but one of my plans is to make combat more of a engagement zone type of thing. So you have to initialize it. So some people compared it to like Elite Dangerous, I think, where you kind of initiate combat and turn combat on for a system or a sector or whatever based on your actions. So you'd have like an encounter, like I said before, where bandits attack a system. They fail to defend it. That adds like a strike to the system. Okay. And then like maybe 3 strikes, it turns on combat. So then that's 1 strike. And then within maybe a year or something like that, the strikes will expire. And then the next strike is maybe an enemy faction comes in and starts shooting at stuff in your system that needs to be defended, or, we have no idea what that is. So take that for whatever. But your enemy does some kind of action that causes another strike if you can't defend against it. Okay, that's 2 strikes.
So ways of incrementally turning PvP on in a system.
Right. So if there's 1 strike on your system, maybe heavy freighters can be attacked. So, if enough heavy freighters get attacked, that might add another strike. And then 2 strikes, maybe fighters can all engage in combat in the system. And suddenly, if enough fighter combat happens in the system, that'll be strike 3. And then strike 3 will be like a full combat, like the planet can be captured kind of a thing.
Okay, yeah.
Or system, I guess, whatever. And by no means is any of this fully planned out. By no means should you take this as panic, like, oh no, we need to get ready to defend.
Well, I don't think anybody would be happy about losing a planet because bandits showed up. Like that was the domino.
Right. People will band together. You'll have like alliances. By the time that comes out, you'll have protection alliances and stuff where, hey, if my systems get attacked, your people will come help, and if your systems get attacked, my people will come help. I'm sure those kind of things will pop up. It's hard to describe, but think of it this way: like, we're not going to add features to punish inactive people, but we will add features that inactive people might not benefit from. So, like, we're not going to say if you're inactive a certain amount of period, you start losing your things, or stuff like that. We're not going to directly punish you for inactivity, but we might say, people can attack your stuff, and if you're not active enough to defend it, they can take it from you.
Right, so
Like-
it's to the benefit of active players, not a direct
Right.
punishment to an inactive. Right.
Right, because people keep suggesting things like, hey, if someone's inactive long enough, they should lose
Can
their
I
stuff.
kill them? Can I shoot them? If they're inactive, can I shoot them?
Yeah, that's one of the arguments. Like, make inactive people targetable by combat. How about make everybody targetable by combat, and you can just shoot the inactive people? That's the argument basically. Is it's not nothing's going to be specifically for inactives. It's going to be for the whole game, and if it becomes easier to handle them, that's just a side effect.
All right. Well, I think we've got a good podcast here. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything that jumps out to you?
No. Remember that Curlian power armor that I stole from you?
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Can I have that back?
No.
Okay. Well, then before we shut down the show, that's pretty rude. But before we end the show, we have a gimmick. It's a
Oh, no.
combine trivia rapid fire round. Rapid fire trivia, okay? So
Oh,
I
boy.
have $25 in a PayPal account with your name on it. But in order to get that $25, I don't know, I'll treat you to a Big Mac or something. A couple Big Macs. How much are Big Macs? $5?
I don't know.
Okay, 25 McChickens with your name on it. But you have so here's the catch. You have 10 seconds to answer each question, all right? And you have to answer 6 questions right in total, and you win. Okay?
Exciting.
You understand? All
Sure.
right. We're going to start the stopwatch. I got to Google stopwatch here. All right. All right. I'll go when you say go.
Oh boy. So is the trick to answer these wrong on purpose, or
No. You want to answer them right. You want that $25, right?
Sure.
Okay, all you got to do is answer 6 total.
All right, sure. Whenever, just go.
All right, and it's 6 out of, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you can get one wrong. All right,
I'm gonna get them all wrong, but sure. Let's
starting now. I say Melita, you say
Dan.
got that one. What is Cranebax's favorite method of transportation?
Scooter.
Ah, got it. Who is the true king of Feline?
Jude Vats.
Got it. Who does Melita Dan belong to?
X.
All right, got it. Wow, you're doing good. You're at 4 right now. Will you give me ownership of Melita Dan?
No.
Wrong. Can you spawn me an SSD?
I could, yes.
You're really skirting the rules on that. We'll skip that one. Will you give me a Hyper 20 A-Wing?
No.
Alright, you lost. You don't get the $25.
Darn,
Wrong
so
again.
close.
Oh, man. Well, 5 out of 7. That's not bad. You were close. You were really close.
Darn.
Alright, closing statements. Do you have any?
Subscribe to the Impa Show.
That's a good one. Yeah, like and subscribe and hit the alert button. You'll get an alert sometime.
Next 3 years?
3 years from now. Yeah, 3 years from now. And hey, maybe that PvP system will be out, and we can do this again.
What's happened in the last 3 years, Baugrems?
All right. Well, everyone, I love you. I only want what's best for you. I've called an Uber. He's waiting outside. Have a safe trip to the airport. That's the show.
Oh, it's hot. It's a pleasure to meet you. How are you doing? Excellent. It is a scorcher, I know. I got the air on now. Let me know if it gets too cold for you. Okay. I started to text you. I didn't think you seen my car, but I'm glad you found me. Where you headed? It says here the airport. You still want to go to the airport? Okay. I can either use the GPS if you like. You gonna give me directions? Yeah, I think that'd be better. Okay. Just make sure you buckle your seatbelt. Yeah. And just directions and I'll get you right there as soon as possible. All right, sit tight.